Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is my co-host, Richie Schneiderite, and Rutgers beat reporter, Craig Epstein. Guys, we're going to talk about the Rutgers-Iowa football debacle. We're going to talk about the two basketball games from this past weekend and preview Georgetown, and also talk about the class of 2024 mostly officially signed, and maybe some tinfoil will get pulled out. Who knows? First and foremost, though, let's talk football. Rutgers obviously lost this past weekend in Iowa City, 22-0 to the Iowa Hawkeyes in a game where Rutgers was seen as kind of a pick'em here. It was a 1-point underdog. At no point in this game did they really even look like they had a chance. I think the closest Rutgers got was down to the Iowa 37, and they promptly committed 2 consecutive false starts to kill that drive. After we've all kind of ruminated on this game, we each get a 90-second rant. Craig, you can start. What were your takeaways from this game, and how do you see this kind of season taking shape now that we've kind of seen Rutgers at its lowest points of the season?
Let me just preface this by saying I'm sorry if they catch any shrapnel, because I just watched a weekend of football with 0 touchdowns, so I'm kind of aggravated and annoyed right now, so I'm sorry if they catch some shrapnel here, but I hate to sugarcoat. I don't want to sugarcoat it, but it was an embarrassment. It was terrible. I mean, to go in the year of 2023, to get shut out in football is just it's a debacle. Like it just cannot happen. And not only did they not score, there was no even threat of scoring. They didn't even get into field goal range. So I mean, just from top to bottom, play calling, coaching, quarterbacking, whatever it may be, the offense on Saturday was just terrible. And it just can't happen anymore. If they want to take that next step, because this was a game really that we all predicted Rutgers was going to win. It was I think going in it was Iowa 1.5. This was essentially a pick'em game. So to just get destroyed in really every facet of the game, it just cannot happen. If they want to take that next step, games like this need to stop.
I mean, yeah. That was actually probably 90 seconds on the dot. I don't know if I can do that, but it's a shit show. Like the offense is just pathetic. Like you didn't even get close to field goal range. It was miserable. Quarterback play again, abysmal. Like he's not accurate whatsoever. Even on his completed passes, and everyone's like, "Oh, look, he made like these completions." And it's like Dremel is fucking getting thrown up here, and he's just getting lucky. I shouldn't say lucky because he's very talented. He's getting beautiful catches, but he has to dive on the ground, so he's getting 0 yards after the catch. We just did the math before. What is it? They're averaging like 4 yards per catch or yards after the catch.
Yeah, I think it's on the season. They're averaging 4 yards after the catch per reception. But then if you look a little deeper, if you take away maybe 4 plays, it drops down to like 2.5 yards after the catch per catch. So
yeah. Take away
Dremel falling
69.
down every time, or the pass is so inaccurate that they have to stretch out and just basically get tackled immediately, or they're on the ground when they catch it because they have no other option.
Yeah, there's so many plays where you can get an extra 4 or 5 yards, and that's a difference maker when it's like 5, 6 different receptions. Yeah, like it's a huge difference maker. But yeah, no, the offense is it's awful, man. Like they need a quarterback so bad, and I'm on the Gavin hate train at this point. I'm sorry, but it's year 3. Still hasn't figured it out. 20+ games. Like something's got to give eventually. He's either got to figure it out how to throw accurately, and even on his accurate ones, he's throwing fucking fastballs 4 yards out, and it's like, dude, we told you can't do that. And then last but not least, like, dude, if it's his decision, and we're gonna find out today because I'm probably gonna ask the question to Shiano. Whose decision is it to let him run or not? Because if it's his decision, he's got to like someone's got to tell him like, dude, fucking tuck and run. Like that's your best ability, and you're not using it. You used it 3 times, and it was for what, negative yards or 5 yards or whatever it was on Saturday. Ugh,
I think he had a long of 3. Yeah, and in college football, unfortunately, sacks get counted against your rushing totals, so you really have to kind of like tease out those numbers in college.
And especially when Monangai went into this game questionable with an injury. I mean, it's 10 games. You can see like this is what happens when you replay a ground and pound style of offense. Like it's just really hard to sustain it. So you get to week 10. Monangai, I'm not even sure what it is, but I'm sure it's just from just taking a constant pounding every week. You can't, taking 20+ carries every. What was it? What'd you say?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing.
When you just when you take 20 plus carries every week, eventually the wear and tear is going to get to you. So yeah, at times Gavin is going to have to start tucking and running. Just save Mononga.
Yeah, it's kind of like boxing with one hand. Like, you could beat up on really bad boxers if you have a really nice right hook. But if you don't have a left hand, you don't have anything to go to as a counter. If you don't have anything to go to when your right hook isn't working,
Mm-hmm.
you see what happened Saturday. There was literally nothing we could do because we couldn't run the ball. And Shiano said, that was the primary reason the offense didn't look good, because we couldn't run the ball, and that's who we are. And that is code for we can't pass. Our passing game is not good enough to take over if our running game is not there. But I want to talk about the defense, because the defense really let us down on Saturday. And I'm not saying individual players, but schematically, we got coached circles around by Brian Ferentz. Iowa had not had over 20 first downs in any game this season. They had 21 against us on Saturday. They were averaging 12 a game. They completed 9. They converted 9 of 18 third downs on Saturday. They were averaging on the season, coming into this game, 27% on third down. They threw for 223 yards passing. Deacon Hill, aka PFF's 330th out of 331 graded quarterbacks. He's the second to worst quarterback of PFF's grading. He had a career high by almost double. His previous career high coming in to Saturday was 116 yards passing. He completed 65% of his passes on the season. He was completing 47% of his passes. Even plays that Rutgers defense did make, like the Max Melton interception, falls down. He's probably still running to this day if he catches that clean. And that felt like the only way we could really score points on Saturday, is if we had some kind of pick six or scoop and score. But Brian Ferentz was just using guys in motion, getting schemed up separation left and right. We had busted coverages. Nobody showed up to play on Saturday. The defense did play pretty well up to a certain point, but I feel like this was a coaching loss first and foremost. I know we talked about Gavin. I just mentioned the defense, threw them under the bus a bit. But for us not to be able to stop Deacon Hill lining up an empty, like, the guy is the least threatening quarterback in all of the Power 5 in terms of passing the ball, in my opinion, even worse than Gavin. And we couldn't do anything to stop him on Saturday. The only thing that we could do to stop him was him just throwing terrible passes, which he did a few times. He missed wide open guys probably 5 or 6 times. So his completion percentage was probably lower than the completion percentage he probably should have had, because there was guys running open on basically every play. So this was a coaching failure first and foremost. How many pre-snap penalties do we have on Saturday? 5 on offense? That is a lack of preparation. Gianna talked about
7.
How the biggest impact for those penalties was the crowd noise. And he said, we thought we prepared them during the week by, pumping in crowd noise to practice. Guys, we've played at Michigan. We've played at Penn State last year. We've played at Ohio State last year. We've been in front of big crowds. For some reason, we couldn't handle their crowd this past weekend. That to me just screams they were not prepared for this game. That falls on coaching. So this is a coaching loss first and foremost. The players didn't play well. They know what their personnel is at this point. They know that Gavin can't throw the ball. They know that if we can't run the ball, we're screwed. With that being said, the coaches didn't design up anything different. They didn't try anything schematically different than we've run all season. And when you have 9 games of game film to fall back on as a coach preparing for a team, it's relatively easy to figure out what the opponent's going to do. And since we're not throwing in anything to mix that up, we're just kind of like taking our lumps at this point. And I don't see that changing this week. I don't see how we're going to beat Penn State. Penn State is a supercharged version of Iowa because they have better players basically at every position, and they play a similar way where they want to run the ball. They have an elite defense, and they want to come out and prove something on Saturday since they just fired Yurcich, their offensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
James Franklin loves to beat down teams when he has the opportunity to run up the score. And if, Rutgers puts out the performance they did against Iowa on Saturday against Penn State, we're going to lose that game by 40.
It's fair. Yeah. I don't
But
know.
again, I'll fall back to this. This is a successful season. Where's my lines? It's a successful season. We won 6 games. We're ahead of schedule. Blah blah blah. That's all good and great. But here's the way I compare it to. Let's say you're planning out your year, right? You have your financial plan. You have whatever, and then you get a scratch-off ticket for your birthday. You don't buy lottery tickets, but your aunt buys you one, and you win $1 million on a scratch-off ticket. Don't you think that would change your plans for the year? Don't you think that you would maybe approach things differently? Maybe not take as much shit at your job. Maybe kind of view things as like, I don't need to, eat out once a month anymore. I could eat out once a week because I now can afford it. That's kind of the way I look at this season. Just because of the expectations we had coming into the season doesn't mean that we can't adjust when we have new data and new observations. This team collectively is good enough to have more wins than 6 right now. We should have a better record at this moment, given how well the team's performed up to this point, given how poorly our opponents have performed. If you just look at the entire Big Ten, outside of a few teams, they've all basically underperformed. This is a year of missed opportunities in the second half of the season. We should have beaten Ohio State. I will die on that hill. We should have won that game. We led going into halftime. We're marching down the field in the third quarter. We're about to go up 2 scores, and the bottom falls out. Ohio State was shook. You come out of the half and you punch them in the throat. I don't know if they come back from that game. This is just a season of missed opportunities like that in the second half. So that is why I think it's appropriate to reestablish where we should be, even though preseason expectations were X. The results and observations say they are not X. They should be more like Y. So I just hate when people are like, "Oh, what were you saying preseason? You guys expected 5 wins and now you're complaining that they have 6." Like, get out of here with that. That is not how observations work. You can reassess when you see different things happening. That's it. That's all I got. That's my rant.
Yeah,
I know
I was
more
just
than
gonna
90
say.
seconds, but
No.
I completely agree with you, Mike. I mean, definitely, but I just don't think we can minimize it. I don't think we can minimize just the quarterbacking for this team. I hate feeling like I'm piling on Gavin, but it's just like, how many games like you said, how many games I feel like they would have won if they just got better quarterback play. I think they would have won the Ohio State game if they got better quarterback play, because when they had their foot on the throat of Ohio State, they basically just stopped throwing the ball. I mean, that's why in the red zone they couldn't score touchdowns, because they just didn't throw the ball. And then obviously they eventually got that pick. They eventually Gavin threw that pick 6, completely turns the game. We've said in the past, if they get back at a better quarterback play, they probably would have beaten Wisconsin. And if he throws the pick 6, completely changes the game. And then this past game, I think if they had better quarterback play, they could have won this game. So there's 3 games right there that if you get just average quarterback play, you might win the game. And we could be looking at an 8-win team right now. Or I know 9-win team, but this point still stands.
I think 8's probably the safe number.
Yeah, 8's probably the safe number. Yeah. But either way, if they just got average quarterback play this year, they're probably an 8-win team. So I mean, it just all falls back to that, because like you said when you were talking that you said they didn't throw. You can't. They know they have a quarterback that can't throw the ball. That's kind of a big deal. Like, if you can't throw the ball, then what are you doing out there? Then just run the Wildcat. Like, it's just I went over it in my 3 thoughts. His completion percentage is 40. I think like 48.2%. I mean, he seems like he's getting worse by the week, and it's just gotten to and they only throw the ball like 16 times, 17 times a game. I mean, we've talked about it in the past, and we're probably going to talk about it now, unless he takes significant strides in these last 2 games into the offseason. Should they go out and find a quarterback in the transfer portal? Well, I mean, all they got to do is find a guy who can hand the ball off and complete 50+% of his passes. Like, I'm sorry, but you can find that in the transfer.
Morgan.
I'm sorry, you can. Yep. Or even if it's just give Simon or Serace or Shepard a serious shot. You cannot, to me, you just unless he makes serious strides. These last 2 games are in the offseason, which, to be honest, I don't know, because right now it's not even like he's operating at like a mid-level to get to that next. He's operating at the basement. I mean, again, 48.2% of his passes. Come on, that's ridiculous. So again, I just can't see them just handing over the keys to Gavin unless he makes some serious strides.
Totally agree. I mean, that you said it all. Like it's disgusting. It's awful, and he's getting worse. Like it's not helping. He's not getting better. There's no development. And people could be like, well, yeah, he's only throwing 12 times a game, like small sample size. And then you go to the big sample sizes, and his completion percentage is lower than the small sample sizes. Like it's like 28 or what was it? 35 attempts against Wisconsin, 45%. 28 attempts versus Michigan State, 46%. 12 attempts, and then it goes down to 41, 40, and 38. So literally his completion percentage has gotten worse over the last 3 games. Like, and that's a shitty Indiana team, and that was still borderline 40%.
Yeah, no,
I'm not asking much. Just complete 50%.
Honestly, it'd be one thing
more,
if
but...
it was 50% and our receivers weren't getting separation.
Yeah.
You know, our
They're
guys
open.
were dropping passes left and right. There are open guys on the majority of routes run. We're missing high, we're missing low. It's like a damn Dr. Seuss novel. If you could write a book about, you know, inaccurate quarterback play, every single thing you could rhyme, every little limerick you can come up with incompletions, it would be in this book this year. Like,
and again, I can hear it already. I know they're missing Chris Long. Jaquay Jackson may be done for the year. I don't know. It looked like the injury looked bad. I mean, if you're going out from where he landed and the fact they didn't come back in, I have a feeling that injury is. I don't know if he's coming back from that, but I know the coaching wasn't great on Saturday, but in fairness to Kirk, how many times have we said this year that his game plan, that his offensive coordinating has been, you know, good? I mean, we've commended him for I'd say most of the season. So he had a bad game. He had a bad calling game Saturday, really bad. But we just cannot. We just can't. But I guess we can't just blame it all on Kirk. I mean, at the end of the day, we've given him his flowers, and throughout the season, if you look, Gavin has just gotten, like I said, worse and worse by the week. I mean, there's a pattern here. So that's just kind of my opinion on it.
Yeah,
You're beating this horse a little too much here. We've said everything we needed to say. Nobody's happy with the offense on the throwing side of the ball. I hope they get it fixed this year. I don't wish anything negative against Gavin. Trust me, if he could flip a switch and be a guy who could just hit open receivers with regularity, I'll take that all day. It's nothing against the kid. We've seen 2.5 years of him playing at this point, and there's been not a huge change in his play. So at some point, do we just... There's a saying that says, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them. He's told us who he is. Why are we not believing him at this point?
Yeah, and you just can't fix accuracy. I'm in that boat too. I know it was Mike Leach, Kyle Shanahan too, I think it was. You can't fix it, and this is kind of proof because it's year 3. There's no difference between this and year 1 and year 2. Like, it looks like the same thing over and over again.
Yep.
So
anyway, let's talk about something a little bit more positive. Let's talk about Rutgers basketball. So since the last time we all spoke, Rutgers played twice. They played on Friday night and they played on Sunday afternoon. They got 2 wins. They beat Boston University 69-45. Yesterday afternoon, they beat Bryant 66-57. I think we can all agree this team is still coming together. Neither of those wins were particularly easy at points. In the second half, Rutgers really started to separate from Boston University, but in the first half, it was kind of rough. Yesterday, it was not really easy at any point. Rutgers really kind of pulled away a little bit at the end, but in most of the second half, that was, 3-point, 4-point game. Bryant was winning midway through the second half. What are your guys' overall impressions on the basketball team so far? Rich, let's start with you.
They're not as bad as the scores are reflecting. Like, I know, like, Bryant or Boston, I think it was like close to tied or like 2-point game, whatever it was at half, I forget. Bryant was like a 4-point game at half, and even like you said, they only won by I know they won by 9, but like the game was a lot closer than it made it look. Bryant was winning at one point in the second half, like you said. But they're just trying to figure out what fits well together. I think it's just more experimenting at this point. You've seen Peichel do already 2 different starting rotations. You've seen Austin Williams in there. You saw Derek Simpson in there. You saw Antoine Wolfolk now as a starter. So I think it's just more about finding what guys fit together and what guys play together well. I know you mentioned it. I don't even know what podcast it was. One of our podcasts, saying like, or maybe this wasn't even on the podcast, but like Noah and Derek probably can't be on the court at the same time because they kind of play such a similar style. And but Derek
you lose
yesterday,
so much
phenomenal.
length there. It's tough to defend with two guys that short.
Yeah. So that's why like Austin Williams is probably out there more. Although he's not really playing a ton. It's weird. You kind of just try to. This is what out of conference play is supposed to do when you play these lower level matchups. You're supposed to be able to figure out stuff, kind of experiment, see what works, what doesn't. Like who would have thought Wolfolk would be the starting 4, and he's also the backup 5. So it's like a weird role for him too. I think you just got to figure it out. And then the shooting's just been pathetic. Like it's been bad. Like layups again, they're missing. What was it yesterday? I had it just in front of me. Layups. 9 of 22 on layups. Like that's really bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
26 points are just laying right out there.
3-point percentage was 18%, and they took 22 attempts. Like it's just you got to hit these shots. Like someone's got to start hitting. I know Griffiths was off yesterday, but if he's off, then someone else has to step up. And I guess they're more comfortable with letting guys shoot through their slumps too, because like Griffiths 1 of 8, 2 of 11 from the field. Andre Hyatt, yes, 19 points, 5 of 14, but he went 2 of 8 from 3-point land. And it's like all these points yesterday almost came from free throws. And that's fine. Like if you can draw those fouls and get 34 free throws per game, but that's like not going to happen every game. So I don't know. I think you just have to just kind of figure out what works, what doesn't. And once you do, I think the team has a pretty high ceiling. It's just until you find that, you're kind of in like a no man's land trying to be like, all right, this shit doesn't work. Damn, what do we do? Do we keep it out there to see if they can gel a little bit, or do we switch it up completely? And I think you'll probably see maybe a little switch up in the lineup again, or rotations. I think you have to.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of like the double-edged sword a little bit with having just so many pieces coming into the season that really haven't played together, is the fact that, yeah, you have all this depth and things like that, but it's going to take time to figure out who, like you said, who gels where, and this is kind of the byproduct of it. The shooting, yeah, like you said, the shooting has just been horrendous, though. I mean, it has to improve. I mean, they shot, I think, 49% combining free field goal and 3 against Bryant, 49%. I mean, again, it's just, I don't know why. It just seems like year after year they just don't shoot well, and it's just
they were 31% from the field on Sunday against Bryant,
and then I think 18% from 3. So
so combined. Field goals combined 3-pointers and 2-pointers already, so it's 31%.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it just needs to improve, and it's nice, again, it's nice to want to try and figure out what works where, but in college basketball, things can get late early. So if you drop a game like to a Bryant, or God forbid you lost to Boston University, you're just spending the next how many games trying to basically fight uphill and erase that type of performance. I mean, give credit to Rutgers; they've won those games. You look across the Big Ten. You got Michigan State lost to James Madison. And then you saw was it yesterday? You saw Georgetown lose to Holy Cross. So basketball is a sport where it takes time. Like it's just to figure out what works where. So Rutgers, I mean, and Princeton looks like they're a good team. Bryant, I think, could end up being a good team. So so far the teams they've played have been pretty decent. So even if they were to lose those games, I don't think they would have been nukes. But they just got to figure it out, and you got to avoid losing to one of these cupcake games, really.
Yeah, losing to Boston University would have been a nuke because they're in the 300s in terms of at least KenPom right now. I don't think net rankings come out until about midway through the season, but that would have been a resume nuke for sure. This is a team that, from my perspective, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but you have a lot of new chefs in the kitchen trying to cook a meal. So trying to just figure out roles, responsibilities, who should do what. I don't think anybody wants to seem like they're, being a ball hog or anything like that right now. They're trying to feel each other out. That's going to take some time. But a lot of these underlying numbers are scary. Like we talked about, field goal percentage at the rim. Shooting under 50% at the rim is awful. It shouldn't happen for a program like Rutgers, but it's happened a couple years in a row where we've struggled at the rim. Free throw shooting has taken a big step back this year. I think as a team right now, we're shooting around 65% from the line. Yesterday in the game, we shot 70% from the line. That's what we finished at. But I believe in the first half, we were shooting like 45% from the line. Against BU, we shot 53% from the line in the game. Like this, you need to be able to shoot free throws at a decent clip. And that was a big struggle for Rutgers under Steve Peichel the first few seasons he was here. We really started to see that get cleaned up, but this year, not a great start there. 3-point shooting is a big problem right now for this team. They're shooting 24% as a team from three. You've seen some good moments from players, but even a guy like Gavin is shooting 23% from three.
Good.
Guys like Andre Haidt, who have taken a fair amount of 3-pointers so far, he's shooting 31%. Hopefully this is something that as they get comfortable with each other, as they kind of see what plays work, what kind of like sets work, get some more open looks. But the offense in general just kind of looks a little disjointed. Defensively, I think we've had more missed assignments this year than we're used to from a Steve Peichel-led defense. But again, that is a cohesiveness thing. Like when defense is really working and really humming, it's because all 5 guys on the court know in every scenario where they need to be, how to make switches, how to, when you're coming back to your guy, have active hands in the passing lanes. Like, it just seems like we're kind of lost out there in moments for certain guys. And I think that'll get cleaned up as the season goes on. We're playing a lot of freshmen, a lot of young guys right now. But this is just going to be a Steve Peichel coaching job year because we've already kind of seen what's on the horizon for next year. This is arguably going to be Steve Peichel's hardest coaching job since he got to Rutgers, from the sense of there are expectations that this team can make the NCAA tournament. I think Steve Peichel's job overall has been incredibly difficult and very impressive. I just mean this little snapshot, 4 years in a row where you basically should have made the tournament for different reasons you did or did not. And now you're coming off of a lot of the OGs from when you were coaching here. Mulcahy, McConnell, we're a couple of years removed now from Gio and Ron. This is like a whole new batch outside of Cliff and Andre. So it's going to be a tough job, but I think Peichel can definitely do it. It's just going to take some time.
The issue there is like, what is going on with Cliff? I know he had a great second half yesterday, but his first half was like ugly. He had 2 points and 2 rebounds in the first half against Bryant. The game before that, he had, 5 points and 5 rebounds and 3 turnovers against Boston, whose biggest guy is 6'9", like 215. Like, I don't know what happened these past 2 games with Cliff, but I know he obviously he bounced back yesterday because he had a double-double in the second half. But, like, the first half, like, you should be abusing these teams. They're not good, like, at all. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, it is confounding. Because again, we went into the season figuring Cliff was going to be the most consistent player, which I guess he kind of has been through the first few games. But he picked up 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes yesterday against Bryant, and just bounced back in the second half. I saw he had that putback over Gavin. So I mean, when it's money time, it seems like he's shown up through the first few games, but it's just about putting those 2 halves together. Because if he can put those 2 halves together, we've seen in the past, he can be the most dominant player on the floor. And if he can do that, then it's going to open up the shooters. I mean, it's really just the complementary thing. The shooters can open up Cliff, and Cliff can open up the shooters. Now it's just all figuring out how to put those things together.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. I expected more out of Cliff too. I expected a pretty dominant season. In fairness, he hasn't been playing that much minutes-wise. I know against Bryant, that was because of the foul trouble early on. But against BU and Princeton, like, he started both games, but he came out after the first media timeout in both games and just kind of like sat there for 5-6 minutes. Like, if you look at the last few years, how Cliff's used, they like to get him through the first 8-9 minutes of the game, ideally at most 1 foul, no foul trouble, and then get him sat until the third media timeout. That's typically been how he's been utilized in terms of minutes on the floor. Clearly that's been changed this year. I think early on in the season, is it's kind of like pseudo preseason for college basketball, where it was awesome to get that St. John's game this year because it was like a real game environment, but not real game consequences. So Michael, I'm sure, got to try out a lot of stuff, see what some of his guys were made of. But you still need to kind of figure out when there are foul trouble situations throughout the season, when there are injuries that pop up, who works together on the floor? Like, what can I go to as a plan B or plan C throughout the season? And that's the kind of stuff you need to kind of figure out in the preseason. And not, I say the preseason, I don't mean the preseason. I mean early on against these Bryants, the Boston universities. So things aren't naturally always going to look pretty because you're figuring out, okay, if Cliff goes down, what are my lineups going to look like? And maybe that's why he's sitting him for extended periods, because he knows we need Cliff in the Big Ten meat of the schedule. We don't necessarily need him against Bryant. We don't need him against Boston University. But at points we did need him against yesterday. We were losing in the second half. So again, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth here, but I'm just trying to rationalize like why we don't really look as good as we expected so far. And I think it's a layered, complicated thing that isn't easily explainable.
It makes me wonder too, like if he's like, he's obviously healthy enough to play, but is he 100%? Because like we saw him go to the locker room for the Boston game, and he just in the struggles in the first half. Like, did something like is he just not there completely? Is he just something hurting him? Like we never know, because remember, like I think it was Ron. Ron was playing through back injury, or no, Caleb was playing through back injuries. Ron was playing through an injury too. I think it might have been a back actually as well. So is he playing through an injury? Is that what it is? Like, I would just like to know personally, but they'll never say it.
I'll be honest though, that now I look at this game against Georgetown on Wednesday. This is a pretty big game early on. I mean, you don't know what you're getting from Georgetown this year. Like they could be either Cooley will figure things out and they'll end up being, maybe a pretty good team, or they might not be very good because, like I said, they lost to Holy Cross. I mean, it's going to take some time for them to figure out their stuff. And if you drop it to Georgetown and they end up being, crap this year, that's gonna look bad for your resume. But if you beat Georgetown and they end up being, at least a decent team, I mean, it goes for both sides, really. Both sides right now, you don't really know what you're getting from them. So you really just want to go out facing Georgetown home and just beat them. And I think we kind of have an idea that they kind of have a little bit of added extra motivation going into this one with everything that went on in the offseason. So really just go out, beat Georgetown, and just add another win to your resume, because you don't know how it's going to look in the coming months.
Yeah, Bart Torvik has Georgetown ranked 152nd right now. To give you some context, Princeton's at 114, Bryant's at 192nd, and Boston University is 349th. So they're bottom 15, according to Bart Torvik's rankings. So this is a game Rutgers should win. They will be a heavy favorite against Georgetown. There's going to be a ton of motivation. It's really the first big-ish home game of the season for Rutgers. I imagine it'll be a real sellout on Sunday. Anytime you're going against Sunday NFL, it's going to be tough to get a big crowd, and it didn't look like they were at full capacity, I'll say, on Sunday, but it was a sellout. But moving on to future hoop stuff. There was a lot of consternation about, this is a great recruiting class, but, wake me up when they sign. They're going to get poached because we don't have NIL, all that crap. Some of it we should have been worried about. Some of it we really was just totally manifested out of thin air. 3 out of the 4 committed guys have now signed. Bryce Dortch signed last week. We had Dylan Grant signed last week. And on Saturday night, late into the evening, might have even been Sunday morning, Ace Bailey signed his letter of intent with Rutgers University in front of his family, in front of his friends, in front of his teammates, in front of his coaches, in front of some people who might not have been expected to be there either. We'll talk about that. So 3/4 of this class is currently signed. How can we just talk about how monumental? I don't think people have 100% appreciated how monumental of a signing Ace Bailey is for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. This was something that was speculated and doubted by anybody who was willing to, give their opinion on it. I was in Vegas this past summer for a conference for my job, And I ended up meeting somebody who used to play at Syracuse. He runs a scouting service, and I was telling him about how well Rutgers is recruiting in basketball, and he said, "Oh yeah, they're not going to sign." I said, "What do you mean? They're committed. Like we've got NIL lined up for them. Sorry." And he said, "Yeah, somebody's going to come in with a bigger bag. We've seen it." I was like, "I don't think it's going to happen, but okay." So basically, anybody who was even on like the periphery is like, this isn't going to happen, and it happened. So to all the people who doubted it, stick it where the sun don't shine. But just talk about how monumental this signing is for Rutgers. Ace Bailey, the number 2 ranked recruit in the country, probably the highest upside of the class, and that's including Cooper Flagg, in my opinion. Rich, you talk to national guys all the time. How big of a deal is this?
They're just as shocked as probably everyone else. Probably like that Syracuse guy. It's like, holy shit, they got who? They got number 2 in the country? Oh, all right. Well, that's pretty crazy, but he's one and done. Wait, they're gonna get numbers. What? They might get number 3 too? Like, wait, what? But yeah, no, this is insane. Like, this is. Remember when Darius Hamilton committed? I'm not gonna say Darius Hamilton. Actually, I'm gonna say Savon Huggins. When Savon Huggins committed, and everyone freaked out because he's like one of the best player in New Jersey, blah blah blah, high 4-star. Then remember when Anthony Davis committed? Everyone's like, oh, high 4-star, giant, big name, like, and then like Anthony Davis and all them, and it's just like, this is bigger than that, way bigger than that. This is number 2 in the country. For comparison, a guy who has a similar build at number 2 in the country from I forget what class he was in, 2006. His name was Kevin Durant. Like, this is.
And what was he ranked in the country?
Number 2.
Yep.
Coincidence? I mean, I don't know, maybe, but I've been comparing the 2 forever, and that's my favorite comparison because they're just tall, lengthy forwards that can put the ball on the floor, can play above the rim, can do anything you want, literally. And I've had other reporters tell me this, like I've been talking to them about Ace forever. Over the summer, we talked about it, and one guy was telling me, he's like, yeah, I mean, Ace he's just a flashy player, just plays above the rim. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what you see. And I see something completely different. I see a guy that's basically a 6'9" point guard that can dunk, can score, can shoot, can defend. See the snatch block yesterday or 2 days ago? It's like, what the fuck? How do you go against them? You can't. This is insane. And I know we're hyping up Ace a lot too, but the whole class is really good. Like, Dylan Grant was unranked when Rutgers got him. He's now in, I think he's 129. And he just continues to look better and better. Bryce Dortch was a top 150 kid when he committed. I think he's just outside that range right now. But he has a chance to go right back into the top 150 if he has a good season too. This whole class, and then I know Lathan didn't sign yet technically, but he's in the 90s. Like, this is going to be a step, not even a stepping stone. This is like a monumental leap from like the past couple classes to this. Like, this is next level basketball. And that's why everyone was like fearful over recruiting over the past couple months, because no one expected Rutgers to be this high of a level of recruiting. And they're here. And it's not like they're leaving it. They got Trey McKinney on campus. They got Darius Acuff coming to campus. They got another 5-star, another 4-star. The kid from Cleveland, whose name I can't remember, is coming to campus. Like, and he's a top 50, 60 kid, right? Brandon Storrs Jr. is one of the guys that we were talking about, technically a little bit leaning towards Rutgers. He's a top 90 kid. They're not going anywhere. This is here to stay. And this class is just the beginning of what could be Rutgers turning into, and I'm going to say it, a potential blue blood.
A red blood. A scarlet
New blood, not blue blood. New bloods.
New
Sorry.
blood. No, I mean...
Yeah, the new bloods, because that's like Gonzaga, all them. The new bloods, not the blue bloods, whatever.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, in the past, how just insane their recruiting has just taken it a step up. But I just cannot wait to watch Ace Bailey, play for Rutgers. It's just so exciting. Watching just the clips of, like you said, the snatch block. I saw him just dunk on another kid. I mean, he's an alien. I mean, he's really just going to be like a lottery pick, if not a top pick in the draft. And there's nothing he cannot do on the basketball floor. So just to be able to watch a guy like that play for, the program that we're going to be covering is just so exciting. And the fact that he might not be coming alone, like we said, there was a certain somebody in the crowd watching him sign his letter. and the Dylan Grant, Lathan Somerville. It's just this team is just going to be the ceiling for this team next year and just really in the future is just going to be so high. And I just can't wait
Is
to
the
watch.
roof.
The ceiling is the roof. But
The
yeah,
ceiling is the roof.
Oh man, I'm just so excited. It's just going to be so much fun to watch and cover.
And you got to be grateful for those 3-4 months because that's it. Like he's gone, like 100%. I talked to NBA scouts this summer or not summer, whatever, fall, summer. I don't even know what season it is right now. Preseason during practices, and they're all talking about Ace Bailey. They're like, dude, I can't wait to see that guy. Like he's a top 5 pick, and I'm like, yo, top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, like that dude. Hang the jersey from the rafters now. I don't care.
So
Like,
the
he deserves one.
maybe?
No, we're not that low.
and just the way that Steve Peichel spoke about him in his, they do these like 30-minute little like clips they put up of just, the cool animation with Steve Peichel speaking about joining the knighthood. He was saying he's got the quickest feet he's ever seen from a high school basketball prospect. He's got an elite ability on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And he is going to go down as one of the all-time greats at Rutgers basketball. Like that is stuff that Steve Peichel, who's extremely measured, is saying about Ace Bailey. And I don't think he's off base. He is totally justified with this level of hype. I mean, if you just look at like over the years, the level of talent player that is the number 2 ranked player in the country, according to Rivals.
Yeah.
You got the Paolo Bancheros, you got the Kevin Durant's, you got Eric Gordon, you got Drew Holiday, you got DeMarcus Cousins, you got Anthony Davis. Like all these guys are top 10 draft picks. A lot of these guys are MVP level candidates. Not all of them. I'm just kind of throwing out some names that were number 2. Like this is nuts. It's going to be so much fun to hear national people talk about Rutgers basketball team next year. Like, just get ready, because if things break the way that it seems like they're going to, and we've been dancing around who was at Ace Bailey's signing. Dylan Harper and his mom were at Ace Bailey's signing. Dylan Harper put up a live from Ace Bailey's signing. You got to wonder, it is a Saturday in November. That's not, a drive around the corner type, of a trip.
Nope.
I mean, we've talked about this. Dylan has made it known he kind of wants to commit at the City of Palms event in December. Let's break out our friend, Mr. Tinfoil.
This feature is sponsored by Reynolds Wrap, the best tinfoil around.
Reynolds Wrap.
Maybe not. That just fell apart.
I pulled a little too small of a sheet, so bear with me here. So the early signing period ends on Wednesday, November 15th. You can't sign and be committed via a national letter of intent outside of this window. So you can't, even if you wanted to submit it on the 16th, the NCAA won't allow. You can't sign again until April. That's 5 months. Now,
my birthday
if
month.
you are basically committed, as it seems that he is right now, and you want to commit in December, you're going to commit and be unattached? No? I think it is a strong possibility that he secretly signs before Wednesday, and the staff doesn't announce it. They keep it under wraps. They keep that under lock and key until he wants to commit. Under tinfoil and key. Because they want to be able to announce that when he announced it. If the staff even wanted to talk about him committing in December, say that's the actual date, they can't. It is against NCAA rules to talk about guys who are not signed with your program. So they can't use that at all to benefit them until April. By that time, the season's over. The off-season program's already in full swing. So I think it's even better than 50% chance that he signs during the early period and the staff doesn't announce it. And you look at what they did with Jermichael Davis this late spring.
Mm-hmm.
He signed. He just wanted to have an event with his family there. It didn't work out, so the staff never announced him. We always were saying, don't worry about it. He's trying to have an event. The staff is respecting that. and they're not announcing it because they want him to have his moment. He didn't have that opportunity, so it ended up not getting announced. I think a similar thing could happen here for the early period. Now, what do you guys think?
100%.
I concur.
I'm on board with you.
I concur.
For the sake of Richie's like sleep, and I just hope you're right.
And again, that
been
was
done
me
for a while.
speculating. I do not have any information saying that is true. I am connecting dots. I am just putting together what makes sense to me. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen.
And I would think because
This kid's been-
isn't he playing Ace at Jersey Mike's in December? I mean, isn't that the whole? I forget. Isn't that the whole thing?
No.
He's playing Ace
Well-
at City of Palms.
Oh,
He's
gotcha,
playing in the
gotcha,
same event in December at the rack with McEachern and a bunch of other schools.
Gotcha. Well, anytime he steps into that building, it's going to be, the question is going to be asked. Like, it's just like that type of thing. So December, like you said, December at the time where it's going to be like, what's going on? Like it makes sense. That's why I agree with you.
I agree 100%. I think it's very realistic. I think he's been committed for a long time. And I think we even heard rumors of a silent commit back in summer. Like, it's just, you can't convince me it's not done, like a done deal. Like, you don't just, they always talked about was, hey, like, I care about my senior season. It's clear he doesn't really want to focus on recruiting during the season. Hence why he had an original date of post Peach Jam, whatever that could have been, because he wants to focus on his season. Like, this is a big season for Don Bosco. They're not doing a typical regional schedule. They're having a totally national schedule this year. Like you said, they're going down to City of Palms. They're playing at the rack against I forget who it is, a big name opponent.
Playing OTE.
The OTE thing. Like, he does not want to focus on recruiting at all. And I do think he probably has been committed. I do think he probably signed. And him and Ace, if you see them on TikTok, on whatever, they're like best friends pretty much at this point, and they hang out together all the time. They're at all these camps together. They're at the USA camp, mini camp together. At Steph Curry's camp together. They're the weekend they spent at Rutgers together. And it's not just Ace and Dylan either. From what I was told, is like Dylan and Ace both have sisters that are very similar in age, and they're hitting it off too. Like, the families are just very, very close. And then to go down to the signing of Ace Bailey down in Atlanta, like, what, a week before your season that you wanted to focus on, tells me basically, like, you're this close, closer than close, and this is going to get done. Like, I'm fully convinced right now this is going to get done. Said it before, said it again. Dylan Harper will probably be a Scarlet Knight when it's all said and done.
Probably.
It will be a Scarlet Knight when it's all said and done. Yeah. Gotta cover all my bases a little bit, just in case. But you never know. But no, like, Duke's out. Like, Indiana's been out. He trolled the shit out of them. Auburn, I don't even know how the hell they made the top 5. It's just like, hey, here you go. Like, and then Kansas. Kansas was a threat, but then they added a guard. And I forget what his name is, LeBaron or something.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
So yeah, and I feel like I'm missing a school too, but
Duke.
Kansas, Duke. Oh yeah, but I said Duke. They've been out for a while. They've added guards.
And
he doesn't want to play with Cooper Flag's the rumor.
And wasn't the nerves that he was going to go visit, Kansas and things like that? Like, I mean, unless he made some secret visit, we're still waiting on that. So
he didn't take.
He didn't make any visit.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
he's been too busy.
The
kid's just. Yeah, and and his the only visits he's made since those rumors have started, since the summer has ended, has been Rutgers. Rutgers, and it's like, that's it. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if you saw him when Ace is rumored to come on Wednesday, but it doesn't sound like he's going to be there anymore. But next time Ace comes to campus, I wouldn't be shocked if Dylan just showed up on the sideline and it's like, oh, hey, there he is again. Like,
yep,
he's committed. I'm telling you.
Dylan's been to a lot of games at Rutgers over the years, even last year. Even not to see his brother, so it wouldn't shock me at all especially if Ron's in the area. Ron's going to come to games, and he's also probably going to join him because it's like his best friend, his younger brother. So
yeah, I don't know, it's crazy.
So we covered a lot here. Is there anything else you guys wanted to hit on before we head out today?
No, I mean, I would talk the old Jets, but I don't want to, so I'm good.
But thank you for keeping that off the table.
Oh, jeez. I think the only thing that's interesting right now is football's getting number one, Michigan's not leaving the Big Ten, so put that one to bed. Number two, college football's getting interesting. We're approaching that off season type, not even off season. We're approaching like a ugly season for coaches. They're all getting fired right now. Everyone's getting let go. I keep an eye on some just because recruiting. There is a couple spots still left. Right now, there's no one notable that they're going after. But you have to watch because some of these coaches get fired, and like I know people have brought up Jalen Hornsby down at Texas A&M, but that's not going to happen from what I was told. So just X-nay that one, whatever, cross it off of your bucket or your list. Bucket list. I can't talk today. Can't talk any day. But yeah, so keep an eye out on recruiting because there's going to be some interesting moves in the coaching industry over the next couple of weeks. Some decisions have to be made. Northwestern is one. Michigan State has to make a decision. Mississippi State now has let go of their coach. Texas A&M, like it's getting really interesting. So keep an eye out there. And I think that's really it. Big game on Wednesday, and I'm sure we'll have another pod on Thursday previewing football or something. I don't know.
Yeah, another big event. Rutgers Wrestling is hosting top 5 ranked Virginia Tech on Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big push to have that be a sellout. I think it's better than 50% chance it does sell out. If you have nothing going on Friday night, or even if you have some things that can conflict with it, that match is going to be incredible. I do think we have a good chance of winning it because we have wrestlers at basically every weight ranked. I think they have wrestlers at every weight ranked right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be a great match. If you've never been to a Rutgers wrestling match, this is probably the best introduction to it because it is intense. So just wanted to shout out the wrestling program. Big event on Friday night.
Yes. That's all I got.
All right, guys. For me and Richie and Craig, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.